If there's one thing that irks me right now, it's this overconfidence that every authority, expert, and guru seems to have. I mean, did they all get lessons in confidence? Do they really believe themselves? This confident projection? I mean, it's at all ends of the spectrum. So scientists are like, hey, we know what's going on. We have the data. We know what's happening. Just turn the crank. And by the way, you can't really know, because at the end of the day, it's all random, as if randomness was an answer to things, like to how our whole universe or our whole experience came into being. But we know. We have the answers. But it's not just the scientists. On the flip side, there are the channels, the people saying, we have a guide, an angel, an ET who said, this is the way it is. This is what's going on in the world right now, and we have the exact answers, so you should believe it. I mean, really? Just because you say you're channeling a higher entity? I mean, is that better than the people who say it's all just random? It's the same mistake on both sides. It's the mistake of, you have to just accept this authority because you can't know yourself. You're not good enough to know yourself. I mean, are you kidding me? Both of you? Like, this reminds me of my quantum mechanics class when I was an undergrad in physics, getting a physics degree, and he would go up and blah, 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 and present fancy things like the Schrodinger's equation, which talks about the quantum wave function and the collapse of the wave function from a wave into a particle. That's what Schrodinger's equation does. And he would just present the math, and I would ask questions, and my friends would too. What's the meaning of this? Like, why is it both a wave, and then why does it collapse into a particle? And he would get annoyed. He'd say, no, it doesn't matter. Just turn the crank. Just do the math. I mean, really? Just like we're just supposed to blindly do the math. Okay, so it's sort of like, somebody saying, you should go to San Francisco tomorrow. Well, why? Well, just because I said so. But why would I go there tomorrow? What if I want to go to, Hawaii or something? No, just turn the crank. The math says you have to go to San Francisco. I mean, really? So, I mean, and then there's this thing. So I've been more into sort of the metaphysics, the spirituality lately. And one of the things that irks me so much there is I often hear people claim, like, well, we mere humans, we can't really understand what's going on. Just don't even try to understand. Just lean into all of it. Just turn your brain off and accept what is. I reject that. Fuck it. I mean, that's just like, what do we have brains for? I mean, even if we're taking the sort of spiritual view that somehow we are a deeper consciousness here in these bodies, which is a view that I'm getting closer to agreeing with reluctantly. But I mean, really, like, should we just take that at face value and just not question it and not use these incredible brains we have? Like, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Nothing angers me more than people who say, you shouldn't question. You shouldn't question. And this is on all sides of everything. You shouldn't question. Just take what I say as truth. It's ridiculous. So what drove me throughout my life? I've been reflecting on this. And it wasn't this fear or the rage that I currently have about this. It was a curiosity, a relentless, I mean, seriously, like relentless curiosity that I've had since a kid. I always had to know. I always had to figure it out. And granted, there are some things from my current perspective I can't figure out, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't try. And I always have tried, because I think we can know at least much more than we do right now. I recently finished the very last episode of Good Omens, and if you enjoy that kind of show, it's a great show. But one of the characters, there's not much of it. There's a tiny little spoiler here, but it's not much of one because you won't know who the character is from what I say or what the context is. So one character says, "Oh, so that person is talking about the problem of evil, the ineffable problem of evil," implying that we can't understand what evil is or what the problem with evil is. And I say the problem isn't evil. It's like ignorance of what evil actually means. What evil actually means in our reality. And I'm not going to get into that fully here, but my point is that when people talk about the problem of evil as if this is some insoluble problem, no, it's a problem of ignorance of what evil actually the evil things that we call evil actually represent in this reality. And it's the same with the chaos. So many people are observing, myself included, that the world seems to be in a mode of a wee bit of chaos. Just a little wee bit of chaos right now. Things are unexpected, are happening. Okay, but the problem isn't the chaos. The problem is not the chaos. The problem is we don't understand the source of the chaos, what the chaos means, where the chaos is headed. So instead, people interpret it in all sorts of ways. Many people on the more sort of scientific material side say, ooh, the boogeyman of collapse. I remember this book from, I think it was Jared Diamond or Peter Diamond. Jared Diamond, one of the Diamond guys, wrote a book about collapse. This was over a decade ago. And it sort of implied that the collapse of all societies when they reach a certain point is inevitable. Really? Based upon a few limited samples? Like, why and what? Do you know the actual cause of why they collapsed? Like, based on very limited archaeological evidence? I mean, huh? Okay, anyway. So how do we just seem to become sort of less and less knowing, less understanding of what's going on? It's not by listening. Okay, that part needs an edit. To the editor, Gabriel. That part right there needs an edit. Okay, let's try again. So if the problem with all of this is like that we don't understand, we don't really know what it means, we don't know what the chaos means, that it's an ignorance, how do we become less ignorant? Well, the answer to the less ignorance is not by listening to specific people. It's not by listening to the scientists. They can't know. They don't have a precedent especially not for what's going on in human society, in the world right now. There is no precedent. Science is usually based upon data and tests and hypotheses and having large data sets. Well, we don't have a large data set for this one. The data set is being generated as we speak, as we live it. There's no map here. So, but then on the flip side, again, the channels, the people who have shown up and said, I received this message and this is what's going on. They claim the source du jour. And here's my take on that. The more confident they are, the less I trust them. Seriously. Now, that maybe is just me. It might not be you. But I don't trust that level of just like, I know it and this is the answer. And no, I don't have to take that as the answer. I, for one, don't stand for any of that. Because I don't stand for this idea that the journey is about us just listening to one single source and saying, aha, that source has the answer, whether it's a channel or whether it's a scientist or anthropologist or expert or politician or guru or whoever they may be. I don't care. That's not why I'm here. And I don't think that's why you're here either. Fear closes doors. Authority closes doors. Curiosity opens them. So what I stand for is following my own trail, one clue at a time, being like a detective with a magnifying glass, not accepting that there's one single source of truth anywhere. Not scientists, not channelers, not even my own guides, without questioning them first. I receive lots of downloads these days. Lots and lots of pretty high quality downloads, like really kind of stuff, like very eye-opening stuff, pretty awesome stuff. But I just say, okay, that's the way reality is, really? No, I keep questioning. And I have followed that trail for 30 years. For 30 years, to a very reluctant conclusion that I'll share with you in a moment. Now, let me pause here and just say, please, if you're enjoying this, if you enjoy my content, please give me that like. Go ahead and subscribe so that you can hear about future videos that come up. This really helps the channel. It really helps the message. And so I'll put that on pause and get back to the message. So I started with a physics degree. One of the reasons I went into physics is to try to figure out what is the nature of reality. Well, physics didn't give me answers because it just told me to turn the crank on the equations. And it told me, well, as an undergrad, you're too lowly to even be asking the questions. There's that overconfidence again. Was Albert Einstein too lowly to be asking the questions? Really? I'm not saying that I compared to Albert Einstein. That's not what I'm saying. But Albert Einstein was an outsider who asked really good questions and came up with some incredible things from outside of the system. So anyway, I questioned consciousness. And the physics didn't give me answers initially. So then I went into computer science, into artificial intelligence in graduate school, thinking, this artificial intelligence stuff might explain it. Well, back in the 90s, it wasn't even close to explaining anything whatsoever. It had no answers. Even now, it has less answers than a lot of the hype people might have. I mean, I'm not totally dissing on AI. I use AI regularly, but it doesn't have answers to what is the meaning of things or what's going on here. So then I actually, after I got my PhD, I went in and I became a faculty member at UNC Chapel Hill, working on the Human Genome Project, among other things, and specifically the ENCODE project for people who are very sticklers to what it means to say the Human Genome Project. The ENCODE project, okay? And I was thinking at the time, though I was studying DNA and proteins and all of those kinds of things, I was thinking maybe this answer to consciousness is in the biology. Well, I think maybe it sort of is, but really it's not there by itself. I think it's actually in the bridge between what physics says and what biology says. And as I went deeper into consciousness research, I started getting even more uncomfortable because, again, the biology hadn't given me answers, the computer science hadn't, the physics hadn't. So in 2015, I decided to take a class on Akashic Records reading because I was just curious at the time. I'm like, what is this? Maybe it has some answers. It sounded pretty weird and esoteric, but it was like mind blown. Like, this is interesting stuff. This is a very different viewpoint of the nature of our reality and why we're here, like souls and soul records embedded in some kind of space of reality, and us making decisions that might impact us not only in this lifetime, but in other lifetimes. I mean, for me at that time, that was like, I learned it, and I started practicing some of what I learned, and it was very helpful for myself and other people. But then I was like, I got too weirded out by it. I was just, the incredulity got too large, and I set it aside for almost a decade and just said, no, that can't be real. No, not doing that. And I went back into sort of what I had learned from the scientific angle, but it still had no answers. It had no answers until, like a year and a half ago. It's like the world seemed like it was on a trajectory of whoa, we're not going in a good direction here. And I was like, nobody in the regular spaces have answers, at least some of these people who are channeling things seem to have some kind of answers of what is going on, especially if I go listen to 10 of them and 4 of them are agreeing on something. Maybe there's something to that, especially since a lot of that was agreeing with what I learned in the Akashic Records. My point is, this is really the key point. Each step, I followed the clue. I didn't just accept the answers I was given, and I arrived at somewhere unexpected. Each step just followed a clue and often arrived at somewhere very unexpected, like this whole Akashic Records thing, or more recently, really getting regular downloads from, those that call themselves my guides. So this is like crazy, going from being a tenured faculty at UNC Chapel Hill, working on the human genome, and having that same person now talking to you about channeling. Like, when I think about that, I'm like, what is going on here? Something is wrong. I mean, I know how that sounds, and I live inside this. I still don't fully believe it, but I'm getting there. I really am. I'm like 90% of the way there in believing, like, there is a lot more than meets the eye going on here, and it actually explains a lot of the things, like including that question of the problem of evil. That what we call, quote, evil is very different than what we think it is. And the thing about this whole journey is I see these people who are like, I knew I was psychic from the start and I was downloading message from my guides, or people who had some kind of who report having some kind of clear ET or whatever encounter, and how that opened up everything for them. And I'm like, well, if this stuff is real, this alternative stuff to, the science and the explanation that it's all just random, the nature of our existence is all just random. No. So the alternative is, like, there's consciousness here and it shows up in many different forms in many different ways. Okay, but I was never tapped on the shoulder. It was never in my face. I always had to go hunting for clues for it. And I'm like, why? Why is this so hidden from us? If this is our truth, if this is the actual truth of reality, why so hidden? And honestly, I've been jealous of people who just sort of have that confidence from day one. Maybe my anger at that overconfidence is really just a hidden kind of jealousy that I have about them. Why do they get the certainty and I only get clues? Is that certainty of theirs a ruse? And that inquiry eventually opened up things for me. About 6 months ago, I started regularly asking for these downloads. And I think, and then I question. Then I'm like, is this for real? You're telling me that there are multiple timelines and that, they all intersect in a larger timeline, a mass consciousness timeline, and that right now we're having a major split of timelines, like that kind of stuff, and me constantly questioning. So for years, I have been really jealous of those people who do seem to just know from day one, or they had an experience that was in their face and it was just so clear to them. And here I am searching. Sometimes I look out my window and I see lights that are hard to explain, anyway, that's a whole other thing. I've made a video or two about that, but but there's never anything in my face. And so I'm like, is this real, or is this just imaginary? And if it's real, the question I was recently asking my own source of downloads, my own channel, is like, well, what's the deal with this? Why don't I get these answers? Why isn't it in my face? And the answer I got is that really, for many of us, myself especially, speaking for one here, is that I'm not here to just have the answers provided. My consciousness, my soul didn't come in for this idea of just being spoon-fed. Like, here you go. Here's the answer. Okay. And here's the next answer. Okay. And here's the next answer. Just listen to the authority. No, that would be so boring, so frickin' boring to have a life experience in this body just knowing everything. I think that's why we come in to this human experience with no memory of the past trajectory of this consciousness, of this soul, is because it would be boring. We're here for that experience of discovery, of putting together the pieces of the puzzle. We're not here to just take what some authority, some guru said, and then say, okay, well, that's the answer. Okay, now I'm done. Now I'm righteous. Now I'm true. Now I'm correct, and I know what the truth is. No, it's so boring. So anyway, that's and that for me opened up the whole world of like, oh, that's why it's so difficult. That's why when I'm getting these downloads, they never give me the whole picture. And that's why when you listen to other people who say they're channeling, I think many of them are channeling, and some of them are channeling like higher sources, but they are all being given only pieces of the puzzle as well. And this whole confidence shtick is just them then translating that into like, well, I need to know, so I'm going to be very confident. But really, they are just being given pieces of the puzzle. And like all of us humans here, we are here for the experience of discovery, of figuring out what this all means to us personally and in the larger collective. And that's where it's just really like it lands in a bizarre place for me, because if we look at what's going on in the world right now, there's the question that's hanging out there, like I mentioned, is everything just collapsing? What the hell is really happening? I recently visited my 80-plus-year-old mother, and she and other people of that generation have said they have never seen anything like this in their lifetimes. Nobody has. Nobody alive has. And I don't know if that in recorded history there's been anything quite like all this stuff going on right now. Maybe. But I mean, it's pretty bizarre times for sure. We don't have that roadmap. We don't know where this is going. And the interesting thing about all of this, where those 30 plus years of this relentless, skeptical, and by the way, I'm a little older than 30 years old, if you couldn't tell by looking at me. But anyway, this 30 plus, with an emphasis on the plus, years of relentless, skeptical, never stop questioning inquiry landed me. A place that I was not anticipating, that I was very reluctant when I heard it, when I got the downloads, but every time I've questioned it is that we are undergoing an ascension of the human species. We are literally undergoing a once in sort of human history event of what some people call ascension, which literally means an elevation of consciousness to a higher level of consciousness, a higher awareness of who we really are and where we are and how we connect to all of the consciousness that is out there in the outer reality, which is really inner reality, but that we are undergoing ascension right now, a true process of fundamental change. It's like that butterfly that goes into the cocoon, and we're kind of in the messy cocoon, like transforming from the caterpillar into the butterfly, and pretty soon we're going to be like busting out of this cocoon, but it's going to be ugly at first. It's messy, and we are going through the mess phase of that. And I just almost can't believe I said that, because every time I come to that, it's like, really? Is this really happening? And I'm constantly asking, and I'm constantly getting the answer, yes, this is really happening. You don't know the whole picture because you're here to discover it, but this is really happening. That's the answer I keep getting. And this is like nothing like what any of us were trained to believe was possible in any of our schooling. I don't know any schooling system of any kind, whether it's just the more like regular secular system, or from what I understand of more like religious systems of education. It's like, this is mind-blowing. To undergo an ascension, really? But the answer is yes. So my point of all of this is like, I didn't arrive here by just getting some download that said, oh, by the way, we're ascending, and then I just believed it. No. 30 plus years of hard-won asking difficult questions has landed on this answer. It has landed on the answer that though we appear to be these bags of flesh and water here, and we're just kind of stuck here, and this is all there is, and that the things that happen to us are just random, that all of that is false. That the real reality is we are consciousness here in these bodies that has entered and joined with these physical bags of flesh. We are consciousness, and that consciousness is currently undergoing an expansion, the likes of which we humans have never seen before. So we do not have a roadmap. We do not have a prediction. And this can be an exciting and curiosity invoking journey, and that open-mindedness is the way to go if you really want to enjoy the journey, rather than clinging to the old rules and the old patterns and the old things that we've been taught about the nature of reality, and ignoring all of the people who say they know what's what based upon the past. This isn't about the past. This is about our future. And I am so excited to go on this journey. And I'm excited that you're here with me. I'll see you later.